friends, Rebecca here, your friendly neighborhood dragon librarian from Farmington Community Library. And I'm here today with Brill, and we're going to talk to you about a book that I think is really, really very special. It's a book that has, I think, in my opinion, a really wide range of appeal for a lot of different kinds of readers. And I think it's something that a lot of people, no matter what kind of book or genre you enjoy, I think there's something in this for almost everyone. So the book that I am talking about is called Mona's Eyes, and this is by Thomas Schlesser. Mona's Eyes. Now, I'm a little bit late to the party on this one. I'm pretty sure that it was Barnes & Noble's Book of the Year in 2025. They announced that like at the end of the year last year. And I remember seeing it constantly when I would go into the store and hearing about it being the Book of the Year. And that's what put it on my radar. That and the fact that I was seeing it pop up at the library all the time with people talking about it and people asking for it and just seeing how many, the copies that we had coming through. So I was like, all right, I will give it a shot. And I really didn't know what I was getting into. And then, like I said, I found this book to be, it's something really special. It's very different. It's very unique, but it also has a really wide appeal, I think. I think a lot of people will really, really like this book. So one thing about me that you may or may not know is that I'm not like a huge nonfiction person. I generally only gravitate towards nonfiction if it's like a memoir from somebody that I think is very interesting, or if it's about a topic that I find very, very interesting. But other than that, I don't just pick up nonfiction casually to read it. It's usually if I'm like specifically searching something out, like to learn more about it, or like I said, a memoir from somebody that I find interesting. So this year in 2026, I've been trying to read more, finding more things on topics that I find interesting, and just trying to read more different kinds of nonfiction. However, I think that this book is really, really perfect for people who really enjoy nonfiction, but also I think it's a really great book for people who don't love nonfiction, but are even just the teensiest bit interested in art. So no, this book is not nonfiction. This is a fiction book, but it feels a lot of the time like a nonfiction book in the very best way possible. So the things that I do enjoy about nonfiction, I think that this book does really very well, which makes sense because this author, Thomas Schlesser, he is actually the director of the Hartung Bergman Foundation in Antibes, France. He teaches art history at the École Polytechnique in Paris, and he's written several books of nonfiction about art and things like that. So when I read that, I was like, okay, that totally makes sense, because this book feels in the best way a little bit like nonfiction. So what is this book about? So this book is about a girl named Mona, and it's about her really special relationship with her grandfather, Henry. So at the beginning of the book, she has this sort of medical emergency where she goes temporarily blind. She has they don't know what causes it. Just all of a sudden one day, she goes blind, cannot see, nothing they can do, no tests pull up anything. They can't find anything to fix it. And then like a day or so later, her vision comes back. So they keep running tests. They keep trying to figure out what caused this. Nobody knows. None of the doctors can figure out why she temporarily went blind. And they also can't answer if it's going to happen again. Was this a random fluke thing? Is this something that's going to happen again? Is she going to become fully blind permanently? And Mona is 10 at this point. So that's a very scary thing, no matter what age you are. But I mean, especially as a 10-year-old. So Henry, her grandfather, and her have this really, truly beautiful relationship. And Henry decides that what he's going to do to try to help her is that he is going to take her every week to visit a different piece of art in a bunch of different museums. And he's going to teach her about these different pieces of art, because he wants her to visit and see these things just in case she does end up going blind permanently. And he wants to make sure that she has these memories of these beautiful works of art. Because obviously he's not just teaching her about art, he's teaching her about life. He's teaching her about joy and sadness and forgiveness and vengeance and all of the grief and redemption and all of the things that art can really make us feel, right? So I have really no background in art at all. I do like art casually. I'm not a person that like thinks they're fancy about art or anything. I do like it casually. I think it's beautiful. I like to learn about it. I love going to museums. When I lived on the East Coast, I would go to New York City all the time and go to a bunch of different museums, specifically and especially the Met and the Cloisters. And I have really fond, beautiful memories of going to those museums all the time with different professors and stuff. So I wouldn't say that I'm coming into this with like any kind of baseline of like actual real art or art history knowledge, which I think is a really perfect baseline to go into this book, because this book is really great for people who are very interested in art, but it's also really great for people who just have a very casual interest in it too. Because the way that this book is written, it feels very accessible. So Henry takes Mona every week. He goes and they visit a different piece of art and he explains about it. He explains about the history. He explains about what makes the art so special, and they talk about it. They have a conversation that you feel like you are a part of. There are so many times in this book that I felt like I was Mona and I was like, okay, Grandpa, tell me about this picture. Tell me about this beautiful painting. Tell me about this sculpture. I want to know things about this. Tell me about it. And he does it in a way that doesn't feel grandiose or over the top. He doesn't bog you down with like all these details and all these dates in history. He tells you exactly what you need to know and what about each of these pieces of art is special. It's incredible. But the most incredible thing of all is when you take this book and you take the dust jacket off of this book, okay? This is what's really, I think, the most incredible thing. Underneath the dust jacket are tiny miniature versions of all of 52 of the pieces of art that Henry shows to Mona. So you don't even have to know these pieces going into it. Like you can be like, there was maybe, I'm going to be honest, like 4 that I already knew about, but the rest of these were all new to me, and it was just so beautiful to learn about these. And every time I was reading a new chapter and could just flip to this and be like, oh, okay, now I know what I'm looking at and I know what they're talking about. This is the painting. This is the sculpture. This is the thing that they're discussing right now. And it was incredible. I thought it was so, so, so perfect. So when I say that this book has a really wide appeal for people, I think if you are already really well versed and you know a lot about art and art history, you're going to love this book, because it adds so much emotional depth to all these paintings and these sculptures without being too overwhelming. And also, if you don't have a knowledge about art, like I didn't, but if you just casually enjoy it, I think there's so much to love here, because you get like a bit of a slice of what the painting or what the sculpture is all about, and a little bit of the history and what makes it so special, which was just absolutely incredible. I thought this book was so special. I think that a lot of people, different people, can enjoy it. I know I did, and I just really, really loved it so much. And if you are interested in this book too, I think you will really have a good time exploring all the different art pieces that are discussed in it. So if it is something that you're very interested in, please feel free to come and check it out from Farmington Community Library. Highly recommend this book. And thank you also so very much for watching, friends. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.